Thank you. Well, welcome to the Opioid Crisis Response Program information session hosted by Equal Justice Works. My name is Angie McCarthy, and I am a senior program manager here at Equal Justice Works. Seb, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Angie. My name is Seb Nazari. I'm the Director of Finance Operations at Equal Justice Works. I handle compliance, financial management, and grants management at Equal Justice Works. Back to you.
Thanks, Seb. Thank you. So for today's agenda, we're going to do a quick overview of Equal Justice Works for those who may not be familiar with the organization or just be partnering with us for the first time. An overview of this RFP specifically for the Opioid Crisis Response Program, including the application process. And then finally, we welcome questions from you all. Feel free to put them in the chat as we go along, but we will answer them all together at the end, though we welcome you to put them in the chat as we go along. Right. So at Equal Justice Works, our mission is to create opportunities for lawyers to transform their passion for equal justice into a lifelong commitment to public service. We do this by mobilizing over 200 passionate public service lawyers per year. We collaborate with over 300 legal service organizations and a network of law schools across the country. And we are proud that over 85% of our fellows, our legal fellows, remain in public interest law. We have two models, but the model that the Opioid Crisis Response Program is a part of is what we call our cohort programs. And this model is where a group of public interest lawyers, and sometimes in collaboration with community advocates, make a lasting impact in an underserved community by providing needed civil legal services to underserved communities. Our programs range in geography from across the country and issue areas. And right now, we have programs that are addressing the affordable housing crisis, disaster recovery. We've had programs that focus on elder abuse and immigrant family security. And we also have an active crime victims advocacy program. The Opioid Crisis Response Program is a new program as part of this cohort initiative. Part of this model is that we work with our cohorts and partners to develop a community-tailored approach based on the needs that you tell us you all are seeing in your communities. We provide customized training and technical assistance, both to the legal fellows who are often, but not always, young and emerging attorneys. We also provide opportunities for collaboration between fellows and give them chances to build a network of peers that are doing similar work. We support our partner host organizations with recruitment efforts to identify candidates. We share resources to increase project efficacy. And we also provide access to subject matter experts working in the fields. In terms of the Opioids Crisis Response Project, we all know, if you're here, that the federal government has declared the opioids crisis a nationwide public health emergency. And it is well recognized that OUD disorder and epidemic can't be addressed without multidisciplinary wraparound interventions, and that lawyers can play a critical role in the fight to overcome this public health emergency. In response, Equal Justice Works with funding from the Foundation for Opioid Response Efforts, or FOR Foundation, has started the Opioid Crisis Response Program to mobilize lawyers, or we'll call them our attorney fellows, to provide education, outreach, and direct civil legal services to OUD affected communities and individuals. And the real focus of the program is to remove barriers and provide access to wraparound services and treatment for OUD affected clients. In terms of the program scope, we envision that these projects will have several overarching components. And again, I'll refer you to the RFP for more detail about what we mean for each of these sections. Are also happy to answer questions at the end. But we envision that the core components will be the provision of direct civil legal services to opioid affected individuals and their communities and families. Medical legal partnerships, either developing new ones or strengthening and maintaining existing ones that you may have. Community outreach and education, as well as education and training to other potential community partners, health service providers, correctional facilities, etc., and engaging in policy and strategic advocacy on these issues. We expect that any host organizations that would like to be part of this program will propose to host at least one, but up to two, so between 1 and 2, no more than 2, attorney fellows for a period of 2 years, that they will provide adequate equipment and supervision and training to the fellows in their cohort, that you will pay fellows in accordance with your salary scale, and we'll get more into Equal Justice Works budgetary contribution towards the fellow salaries at the end. Supervisors may be expected to participate in a limited amount of calls and training events with their fellows as part of our TTA program, and to work collaboratively with fellows and Equal Justice Works throughout the program. The second major component of the Opioid Crisis Response Program is training and technical assistance for the fellows. This will include a kickoff training at the beginning of the term. Fellows will be expected to attend conferences, both those hosted by Equal Justice Works and others we identify along the way to increase their subject matter expertise and professional development. Fellows will be part of a cohort of monthly calls and regular calls and training tailored specifically towards them. And they'll be asked to participate in a final learning event at the conclusion of the program. Going to move on to the application process for the RFP that has been issued. The first is make sure that you are one of the eligible organization types. So host organizations must be a nonprofit organization or an institute or a nonprofit institution of higher education. This includes tribal institutions. You must provide civil legal services. So unfortunately, public defenders' offices or legal nonprofits on the public defense side are ineligible under this solicitation. Host organizations will need to demonstrate their capacity to provide adequate supervision, mentoring, and training for the fellows. And host organizations need to be located in the targeted states. So this RFP is not open to all 50 states, but rather it is limited to host organizations who are located in Arizona, Connecticut, Delaware, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Tennessee, Vermont, and Washington, D.C. While Equal Justice Works is always hopeful that we'll be able to expand our funding opportunities and our geographic reach for this project, at the moment, only host organizations located in these states are eligible to apply under this RFP solicitation. The timeline is as follows. As you can see, the RFP and application are due on July 1st, so coming up fast next week. We will get back to you by July 22nd, give or take, to notify any applicants who are selected of their selection. And at that point, anyone selected would receive a conditional approval, but final start of the program is conditional on the completion of a subaward agreement with Equal Justice Works. And the hope is that we'll start recruiting fellows over the summer, and they will start in September of 2024. and start their 2-year fellowship term. The fellowship runs through August 2026. That is a typo. That is when fellows must end their terms, and we'll correct that thing. In terms of the application pieces, the first is that you can find the application on our online submission portal called Submittable. The link is located in the RFP and on the project website. You will fill in all of your application information, all your applicant information, post organization, primary contacts, address, etc. And then you will be asked to submit several documents and appendices that we'll go through next, including a proposal narrative, work plan, budget, and you'll be required to complete various forms and assessment tools and certifications. The first component to the application is going to be the proposal narrative. It's going to include your statement of need and your proposed program design and implementation plan. That's where you're going to share with Equal Justice Works your goals and objectives for your proposed project and your fellow supervision and mentoring plans, as well as your sustainability plan. We also ask that you include your organizational capabilities and competencies in this proposal narrative section. The template can be downloaded as a Microsoft Word document, and you can complete it and upload it in Submittable along with your application. The next component is your work plan, and this is where you're going to share with Equal Justice Works your targets under each key program indicator for the program, including direct legal services, medical legal partnerships, advocacy, etc. Just a quick tip. There are 2 tabs on the Excel sheet. If you're only proposing to host 1 fellow, you only need to complete the first tab. The second tab is to be completed if you plan to host or are proposing to host 2 fellows at your organization. Seb, I will leave it to you to discuss the budget template.
Thanks, Angie. So this is the budget template that's included in your project, in your RFP package, which you can download it from our website. The budget template is your expense plan for this grant, and it has 2 clear line items that Equal Justice Works will fund. The first one is salaries and benefits. The second one is other support costs. There are certain costs that can be considered allowable for each of these 2 line items. The first one, the fellow support costs, which includes salaries and fringe benefits, can include salary, fringe benefits, mentorship, and other support costs such as FICA, workers' compensation, healthcare, and retirement benefits. Please note that this budget template is a preset template with formulas that change the values of your budgeted amounts as you change the months that are in the start and end date of the fellows. The first year, the first 12 months for salaries is $59,000 there. The second year goes up by 3% because of a 3 percentage point increment, which comes down to $119,770 for 24 months for salaries and fringe benefits. Project support costs are $5,000 per year, which provides funding for the fellow and in their activities, which include local travel, language access, litigation expenses for the client, litigation expenses for the client, and training. Next slide. Okay, could we go back to the previous slide, please? Half of this template is not showing up here. My apologies for that. There are a few more line items where you can add post-organization contribution if you would like to contribute towards this budget. There are scenarios where fellows receive a higher salary than $59,000 in the first year, or more than 60,770 in the second year, and the host organizations would like to pitch in the difference. And you're welcome to do that. It's gonna be, it shows up in the template, but the screenshot, it's not showing here. Now we can move to the next slide. Unallowable expenses. Equal Justice Works does not pay for indirect costs under this grant, and we are not going to pay for anything that has to do with the startup costs, such as preparing proposal and conducting need assessment to prepare this proposal. The grant goes into effect on the date of its signing, and anything related to those two line items that I just went through, starting after the grant has been signed, is payable by Equal Justice Works. There is a leadership development training that happens every year at Equal Justice Works, and we're going to cover the cost of those. The expenses for LDT is not going to be passed through by your host organization, but directly paid by Equal Justice Works. Next slide. There are a couple of forms that you need to fill out as an applicant host organization as part of your request proposal in response to our request for proposal. The first form that we have here is screenshotted here. The first page of is pre-award survey, and these forms will help us. Your responses to questions that are in these forms will help us determine whether Equal Justice Works would be able to award a grant to your organization. It basically provides preliminary information about the organization that's applying, the type of activity for which you're submitting a proposal, and the location from which you're applying, because this grant is location restricted. Next slide. So as part of our compliance due diligence, there is also a risk assessment tool included in the RFP package. It contains 75 different questions related to the organization, past history, its capacity, operations, jurisdiction, and a whole bunch of other administrative information that helps us determine the risk profile of your organization and Equal Justice Works' ability to award or not award the grant to the organization that's applying. Next slide. The grant standard grant provisions document is also included in the RFP process, and part of that is because previously Equal Justice Works had a few instances of moving along further in the RFP process with certain organizations, and after we shared a copy of our standard terms and conditions, those organizations came back saying that they were not able to sign off on it because of the nature of their activities or the way they were incorporated in certain states. So we decided that we include a copy of our grant standard terms and conditions in the RFP process ahead of time for the applicant organizations and for potential applicants to be able to see whether these terms and conditions are something that they can agree to, so that later on we would have no problem signing a or grant agreement with. Next slide, please. There are two certification forms that we would like all of our potential applicant organizations to sign off on as well. The first one being the subrecipient policy certification. It's consistent of two parts, and as you can see on the left, we have highlighted that section D should only be signed off by organizations that receive funding from Equal Justice Works and a private foundation funding stream and not a federal funding stream. So you would just need to fill out the section D of this subrecipient policy certification and sign off on it and include it on the in your proposal package. On the right, you see a certificate for data privacy, sharing protocols, confidentiality, and privacy rights. That is a one-pager document that your organization would need to read and sign off on, so that the Equal Justice Works certifies that your organization has read our policy and agrees to. with respect to confidentiality, privacy rights, and data privacy. Next slide. Angie, over to you.
Thanks, Zeb. So at this point, we are happy to take any questions that you have. Feel free to write them in the chat box. Alternatively, if you need a little more time to go back to your team and think about questions that you may have for us, you can submit them via email at the email below, opioidresponse@equaljusticeworks.org, and we will happily get back to you. I'll pause and see if there are any questions. Okay, well, with that, we can end the recording. I thank you for joining us today. We look forward to receiving your applications and to the potential of partnering with you. Please do not hesitate to reach out again at opioidresponse@equaljusticeworks.org if you have any questions about the solicitation. Thank you.